Thank you very much for joining me for this broadcast today. I really appreciate for your time. Thank you, Sarah Gigiwa, for coming in. Today we want to discuss on the negative effects of belief system. The negative effects of belief system. This is a continuation of the broadcast that I did last week on the belief system, the impact of belief system. And if you can remember last week, and we looked at the impact of the home system, the school system, and also the workplace system. Thank you, Mumo, for watching. And how these systems have shaped the way we look at things and even the way we function. So this talks are based on my soon to be released book, Eradicating a Poverty Mentality. I want to believe that this broadcast today will be of blessing to you. If you didn't watch last week's broadcast, I will encourage you to tune in. To go and check it out on my timeline. You'll find the broadcast there and you can be able to enjoy it. Thank you, Komboka. Thank you, Esther Nduta, for tuning in. So the negative effects of belief system, the negative effects of belief system. Thank you, Bro Valerian, for tuning in all the way from USA. Esther Nduta, for tuning in all the way from USA. I really appreciate your presence here. I once heard a story of a man who was found by a group of people crying over a graveyard. Why did you have to go and leave me with so much suffering? Why? This man was crying and lamenting. Thank you, Mbindio Kimathi, for tuning in. Now, those were the words he uttered repeatedly in between sobs, and his pain moved some members of the group. They decided to comfort him. One of the old lady moved closer and placed her right hand on his shoulder, and he said to him, it must have been a very dear person to you. I'm so sorry for your loss. At that moment, the man turned to her, still sobbing, and said, no, he was my wife's former husband. Thank you, Evelyn and Young Mula, for tuning in. So he was my wife's former husband. And I know you are reflecting on this story and trying to infer its meaning. Why would a man cry over a graveyard? And when asked, he says the person that makes him cry is his wife's former husband. According to the crying man, his wife's former husband was to blame for his problems. Had the man not died, he would not have married the wife and he would not be suffering. In other words, the crying man believed that his rocky marriage was occasioned by the man's death. His rocky marriage was occasioned by the man's death. Now, this story brings us to a very important discussion on belief system, because whether we know it or not, beliefs affect us in many ways. Whether we know it or not, beliefs affect us in many ways. And that's why today I want us to look at the negative effects of belief system. Thank you, Mr. Fred Mugambi, for tuning in. Evelyn, for tuning in from Gong. Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines belief as a stage or habit of the mind in which trust or confidence is placed in some person, or thing. It further states that belief is the conviction of the truth of some statement or the reality of some being or phenomenon, especially when based on examination of the evidence. Now, studies on beliefs and psychologists' finding on the formation of beliefs reveal that the relationship between beliefs and actions is that we tend to acquire beliefs from the people around whom we spend our childhood. So it could be your parents, it could be your friends whom you spent a lot of time when you were a child. It could be the teachers, your kindergarten teachers or your baby class teachers and your colleagues. You acquired some beliefs, but continuously as we grow, something happens and we begin to believe on some particular things. Our mental faculty is shaped by particular beliefs as we grow up. Albert Einstein said common sense is the collection of prejudices acquired by age 18. Look at that. Common sense is the collection of prejudices acquired by age 18. Now, Albert Einstein's opinion could as well apply to political, religious, traditional, or cultural beliefs which inform our mentalities. Now, it's important to bring to your understanding that people are trapped in various beliefs in their lives to the extent that they cannot progress. People are trapped by various beliefs in their lives to the extent that they cannot progress. In fact, many people suffer from a progress phobia since, thanks to their beliefs, certain aspects of progress are condemned. Certain aspects of progress are condemned. Now, Ezra Pound put it very well. He said, what matters is not the idea a man holds, but the depth at which he holds it. It's not the idea a man holds, but the depth at which he holds it. On beliefs, Orson Scott Card said, this is how humans are. We question all our beliefs except the ones we really and those we never think to question. That most of the time we question all our beliefs except for the ones that we really believe and those we never think to question. And that is the paradox of life. There are particular beliefs in our lives that we really do not question or do not think we should question. But we question a lot of beliefs that we hear from other people. But again, there are particular beliefs that we never think we should question. Our lives are surrounded by clouds of beliefs which follow us wherever we go. Most of the time, the clouds of beliefs above us are devoid of any waters which could rain on our dreams. Before we realize it, what happens? We find ourselves in a self-made desert with no oasis on the horizon. Faced with this truth, most of the time we resign ourselves to fate. We resign ourselves to fate. And there are a lot of people who have resigned themselves to fate. They got themselves trapped in their own beliefs. Beliefs that they came across when they were growing up, beliefs that impacted them consciously and unconsciously. And it's a pity that some beliefs have destroyed, depressed, and decapitated lives. How often do we allow our lives to stagnate due to our baseless beliefs? So many times we allow our lives to stagnate due to our baseless beliefs. And so today I want to challenge us to examine our belief systems. I want us to examine our belief system, because our belief systems or negative belief system have brought a lot of consequences in our lives. My close examination of the human mind as a keen student of cognitive psychology made me realize that people do have an innate desire to grow and become wealthy. Unfortunately, people tend to surrender to the conditions created by their own mindsets. Over time, one's beliefs turn into a mindset. As a result, one accepts things as they are, regardless of whether or not one likes their experiences. And because of this, you find most people begin to experience things that are not right, but they are sucked in by their belief system. Look, there is a persistent survival instinct which encourages people to adapt and live with experiences, events, and thoughts for a long time. Now, you certainly feel bad when you hear, for example, that some people in some parts of the world, and especially Africa, live or survive with less than a dollar. But let me assure you that given their mentality, the situation may not be as bad as you think. The situation may not be as bad as you think. Let me remind you of a story, of something that happened, a true story that happens in this country of Kenya. The government once came up with a very good plan, the slum upgrading program. It was a fantastic plan. I'm sure you remember the NHC housing in Kibra. One of the strategies of this program was to build decent housing units for the slum dwellers. Upon completion of the project, slum dwellers were to be moved from the poor, dilapidated makeshift structures to the decent houses. And sure enough, it was done. And the day that people were transiting from the poor neighborhoods, there were a lot of celebrations. I remember watching news and seeing all that. There were ululation. People knew that their lives would change for good. But you know what? This was short-lived. Because after a while, when people were moved from these slum areas into these decent houses, after a while, they went back. What happened? They subletted the houses, Some of them, rented out the houses and went back to the slums. Now, what was the problem? What was the problem? I want to believe that the first thing that the government maybe should have done was to first transform people's minds on what they were about to get themselves into. Transform people's minds on what it will take to sustain themselves in a new housing unit away from the slum. But people held that particular beliefs, and when they realized that it was not connecting with their belief system and where they were coming from, it was hard for them to sustain that kind of life. Now, when you subscribe to strong beliefs, they influence your life and you actually come to accept them as the truth. Now, even though the beliefs are often untrue or unfounded, but we get to a point of accepting those beliefs as true. And it becomes very difficult for someone else or even you to deal with them. It is therefore important for us to examine the kind of beliefs we entertain before we fall into sorry conditions which have imprisoned so many people in the world. And I can assure you, even right now as we experience this tragedy of COVID-19 pandemic, there are a lot of people who are forming particular beliefs. I want to believe that you will not entertain those beliefs and allow them to become systems that affect you for a very, very long time. But you will, in a way, create a balance within your life so that you can be able to know what you want to choose for a long time to believe in, or what you do not want to choose. So what are the effects of beliefs? What are the effects of beliefs? A friend of mine told me a story a long time ago about a well-educated African woman right in this country. When it was her turn to lead the congregation in reading the Bible, she was tasked to read from the book of Matthew. Surprisingly, when she stepped to the pulpit, she opened the Bible and boldly began reading and said, "According to the book of my father-in-law," chapter. The congregation was at a loss. It turned out that according to the cultural beliefs of this woman, it was an abomination to mention the name of your one's father-in-law. Coincidentally, the name of the woman's father-in-law was Matthew. Now, that may look very ridiculous and even humorous, but you know what? It's a pity that people have entertained beliefs to such a level that beliefs have become the foundation that impacts and affects them big time as far as the way they live their lives daily is concerned. Now, beliefs are indeed effective. Whether we like it or not, beliefs are very, very effective. Consciously or unconsciously, they are beliefs that have been in your life, and they affect the way you look at things, they affect the way you interpret situations, they affect the way you live your life. Subtle as some of them are, these beliefs are, they are ingrained in us. These beliefs are ingrained in us. They continue to develop and become an important part of our lives. Now, listen to me. Human beings have been known to invent disturbing beliefs and keep themselves disturbed about their own disturbances. Now, this is according to one of the assumptions within the rationale emotive therapy by Albert Ellis. Now, if you scrutinize yourself, you will realize that what keeps you disturbed most of the time are products of your own inventions. What keeps you disturbed most of the times are products of your own inventions. So I want us to look at these assumptions developed by Albert Ellis, who came up with the rationale emotive therapy. And Albert Ellis makes the following assumptions. Number one, he says people condition themselves to feel disturbed through self-talk rather than being conditioned by external sources. Now, most of the time we may think that people are conditioned by external sources. Yes, at a certain level, but continuously, we continue to condition ourselves to feel disturbed through self-talk. Things that we say to ourselves. Things that we say to ourselves. Have you ever caught yourself saying particular things to yourself, and those things have continued to affect you up to now, even though you forgot what you said to yourself? Number two, Albert Ellis' assumption is that people, through cultural and biological tendencies, think irrationally and needlessly disturb themselves. That we think irrationally most of the time, and needlessly we get to a point of disturbing ourselves. And number three assumption is that people invent disturbing thoughts or beliefs and keep themselves disturbed about their own disturbances. People invent disturbing beliefs or thoughts and keep themselves disturbed about their own disturbances. It's so sad that we invent disturbing beliefs, we invent disturbing thoughts, and then we keep ourselves disturbed about our own disturbances. And this may go on for the rest of our lives. Now, can you imagine that? Now, number four assumption is that people can change their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. They can train themselves to remain minimally disturbed in their lives. And I like this fourth assumption, that irrespective of all the beliefs that we have invented, how we have conditioned ourselves, we still can change our thoughts, emotions, and behavior because we learned these beliefs. We conditioned ourselves through these beliefs. We can go against the condition and change our behavior pattern. And we can train ourselves to remain minimally disturbed in our lives, even in the midst of this pandemic and so many bombardment of thoughts, ideas, theories. We can still decide to remain minimally disturbed during such times and create beliefs that are positive, that will push us to what I call the mountaintop of success and significance. But have beliefs impacted us and affected us negatively, especially in Africa? I'll tell you yes. I'll tell you big time, yes, beliefs have affected us big time. I believe that Africa, like the other continents, is not poor, but it is the poverty mentality we entertain that troubles us. Our thoughts and beliefs hinder our chances of achieving wealth. Many people desire to accumulate wealth but spend a lot of their time brooding over poverty-related thoughts. Such thoughts build a strong fort in their minds and negatively influence their lives. Negatively influence their lives. Let me give you an example. As an African, I know from experience that production is one of the African country's greatest troubles. And I'm sure you agree with that production is one of the African country's greatest trouble. We have reduced ourselves to consumers and not producers. We always think consumption while our friends think production. As such, before we realize it, we find our continent moving backward as our friends move forward. Now, I'm going to give you some facts here. Africans' contributions to the world gross income and trade is very minimal. To that, irrespective of the fact that there are emerging economies in this continent, our economy as a continent is still disproportionate. Our investment in entrepreneurship and productive capacity is wanting. This ought not to be so. If you visit so many African countries, you will find a lot of products that have been imported from other countries. It's so sad that we have gotten to such a place as Africans that we import food from other civilizations. This ought not to be so. Now, our thirst for foreign things has made us peg a lot of premium on imports from other civilizations at the expense of those from our own economies. Now, look at this. There is no balance between the number of goods we import and the number of goods we export. That's the truth. In fact, for us in Africa, the coffee business is coffee beans. The football business is players. The automobile business is showrooms. The athletics business is athletes. The flower business is greenhouses. And you know what? I can mention as many businesses as possible and the way we look at them. But look, to the Japanese, the automobile business is no showrooms. It is the creativity, the technology, and production of vehicles. The process of creativity is the trademark of total excellence and the key to the economic ascendance of Japan. That is the truth of the matter. Let's calm down, In athletics, Kenya is known the world over as the home to world athletics record holders. That's for a fact. We have our own Eliud Kipchoge, David Rudisha, who have broken world records. But I wonder how many of those athletes are being managed by fellow Kenyans. Have you ever thought about that? Believe me, chances are high that they are few. Why? It is because to us, the athletic business is athletes. We don't seem to realize that it is the professional management of these athletes that will move the entire athletic industry to another level. And same applies to football. The reason players in the Premier League, La Liga, or Bundesliga are paid handsomely is because of the professional management of football in those countries. Football is not just about 22 men on the pitch kicking an inflated piece of skin. No. It is the branding and advancement of a professional approach and the strategic leadership that go with this sport. And today, so many Kenyans, you find them glued on their TV, watching Premier League, watching La Liga, watching Bundesliga. But most of us, we don't see the business aspect behind the sport itself. We seem to be mesmerized with 22 men kicking an inflated piece of skin on the field for 90 minutes, but we do not seem to look at the business aspect of that. And because of that, we miss the point, even though we export players to other civilizations, even though we have football leagues in our own country. A point of reflection right there. What is the reason? Belief system. Belief system. The negative effects of belief system that we hold have put us in this particular situation. Now, until we begin to embrace such beliefs, we may stagnate for a very long time. Until we begin to change our minds and embrace beliefs that are positive, we may stagnate for a very, very long time. Professor P.L.O. Lumumba once said, "The third world is only a state of the mind. And until we change ours, if there is a fourth, a fifth, or a sixth world, we will be in it." Now, how true that is. Everything is an object of our own creation, and things won't change as long as we stick to our misguided conviction that we are on the right track. We are not on the right track as far as our belief systems are concerned. And if you doubt that, look at even our political systems. Look at our political beliefs, and that will show you that we are not in the right track. Look at our entrepreneurship, how much we invest on entrepreneurship, how much we invest in innovation, and it will shock you that we are still not learning from other civilizations to put ourselves on track to the mountaintop of success and significance. It's a pity that in most businesses, Africans are part of a global supply chain. We provide raw materials and labor, at a low cost. We do not want to think speedily of the mechanisms which will empower us. Hence, we remain the product of manipulation. Other people do the sophisticated stuff. They handle the logistics, build wholesale and retail operation, manage the final customer, nurture brands, and end up making all the money, while we are left begging for aid from the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, and other developed nations. Now, if we are going to change, it must begin with individuals. It must begin with you and me. Begin to change our belief system. Create an atmosphere that impacts us positively by following beliefs that are very, very good, that can push us into the right direction. Because our belief system for a long time have made Africa the land of economic dependability. The land of economic dependability. And today, Africa is a land of economic dependability. But why? A father takes the firstborn to school with the hope that after school, the firstborn will get a job and help him raise their younger siblings and take care of the entire family. How then can we eradicate a poverty mentality with such attitudes? The pressure is so much that those who are employed do not enjoy their salaries even. They struggle to make ends meet while surviving within the organizations they work for, with the hope that there will be salary increment someday. There is need for mentality change. We can't live our lives with simply hopes that there's going to be salary increment someday. We can't live our lives hoping that on Labor Day some announcement is going to be made that is kind to us in some way. It's time for us to develop investments, beliefs, and begin to invest in production, since it is through production that we shall begin to expand, create more jobs, and empower ourselves economically. It's courtesy of our adoption of production that we shall discover our true potential. When you adopt these production policies, we shall discover our true potential. Listen to me, our great-grandfathers never started businesses. Most of them, they never started any company. They never started any business. Our fathers, our mothers, our grandmothers, they didn't do that. And here we are thinking unemployment is going to go down for some reasons. It can't. It can't. We need to change our mentalities and begin to see this reality. If 50 years ago, our great-grandfathers didn't start any companies, any businesses, and nurture that, and our fathers didn't do that, how can we then today expect that unemployment is going to go down? Rex Morgan, the founder of Forever Living Products, once said, the greatest source of illness in the world is an empty wallet. If you want to decrease the number of the suffering, just give them a chance to earn an honest living. I love this quote, that the greatest source of illness in the world is an empty wallet. If you want to decrease the number of people suffering today, just give them a chance to earn an honest living. Now, that opportunity to earn an honest living is what majority of people in the world are in need of. The stress that stems from lack of basic needs and other necessities of life can push individuals to negative and inhuman pinnacles, Therefore, there is an opportunity even in Africa for visionary individuals to decrease the number of those who are suffering by teaching them how to get opportunities which will help them earn an honest living. It takes great mental discipline for a person in a situation of want to think of abundance and wealth. For us to overcome poverty mentality, we will need such a discipline which will be the driving force of our imagination towards building a wealth life from within us before the same is manifested without. Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to leave you with the words of Doug Fireball, who said, "Wealth is built one thought at a time." Wealth is built one thought at a time. If we are going to go towards that direction, we need to begin building wealth one thought at a time. And you can begin from wherever you are, no matter who you are. Begin to build wealth one thought at a time. Begin to believe in the reality of destiny by pushing away negative beliefs from within you and begin to create the right beliefs that there is abundance for everyone in this world. Thank you very much, and thank you for tuning in. My name is Dan Mugera, and we can continue with these conversations. I would encourage you to visit our website, www.publicspeakingtc.org, and sample some courses that we offer. Currently, we've been offering courses online via Zoom, and you could take one of the courses there. Either you can take the professional speakers course through personal coaching via Zoom, or with a few friends, you can join hands, and we have highly discounted these courses right now. Or you can take a leadership course. As a licensed John Maxwell coach and speaker, and I'm licensed to offer John Maxwell programs, and you can take either the 15 Invaluable Laws of Leadership or even our programs on Super Leader Series or self-discovery that will enable you understand yourself and move yourself to the right direction. If you're interested, you can inbox me, or you can visit and like our page, the Africa Center for Public Speaking, or send us an email through info@publicspeakingtc.org, or give us a call. Let's chat on WhatsApp, and let's continue with this conversation. Thank you very much, and may God bless you. Good night.